Yeah, man, but that Frost Forest card is like ancient. It's from when he was at Harrisburg.
Sure, yeah, it's my grandfather's old deck, but I mean, it doesn't have any bad cards. Like, I mean, take Winnie, for example. Okay. Also, an older card, sure. But with the buff to his AoE, he's never been more relevant. I mean, in fact, he just went 5-0 with it at my local Proving Ground Summer Circuit Qualified #2 Open Qualifier Group Stage Trading Card game. I mean, my PGS Q2 OQ GS TCG deck is insane.
Dude, I love PGSCQ2 OQ GSTCG right now, but I for sure got a better deck than you. And you want to know why? It's because I have a first generation Tempest gaming mobility card.
What? But how?
You know, I just knew a guy with a little bit less ambition. But the mobility card is stacked. When it's played, mobility collects 38% of the team's gold in Proving Ground Open Qualifiers, and it has a unique passive where it has like an 80% chance to participate in kills with other Tempest cards. It's a truly potent card, and can you believe it's only been out for less than a year?
Yeah, well, what do you know? I've got bona fide results in PGS Q2 OQ GSTCG tournaments, and we all know experience wins these things.
How many times do I have to teach you, old man? Experience matters, but we all know the latest cards can shake up the meta. I know all of the hidden tech. And as much as I would like to put a second-rate duelist with a third-rate PGSCQ2OQ GSTCG deck in the dirt, we have some League of Legends to cast.
Okay, you're right. Well, let's welcome everyone to LCS Proving Ground Summer Circuit Qualified #2. I'm Read and Write. I'm your play-by-play for today, and bringing the brains, the brawn, and that beautiful broadcaster beard. It's Regdor. Really happy to finally be on cast together.
I am so pumped for today, and I absolutely was not expecting that grand of an entrance. I'm like a little starstruck now.
No. Anything for you.
Yeah, I mean, anything for me. I love that. But before we get too far into today, we are going to have a quick little explainer video on the format of PGCQ as a reminder of how everything's going to go down, provided by the beautiful Desirux.
Welcome to the Summer Proving Ground Circuit Qualifier presented by Unify. 32 teams will compete in a 5-round Swiss Open Qualifier to decide who will advance to the 16-team group stage. The Swiss format matches teams with the same record against each other as the rounds progress. This means in round 2, the 1-0 teams will play each other, while the 0-1 teams will do battle, and so on. The 16 teams to reach 3 wins by the end of round 5 will move on to the group stage, where they'll be seeded based on their results in the Swiss. Each group will play in a best-of-3 double elimination bracket to decide who will advance to the playoff stage. The playoffs will be single elimination best-of-3 matches up until the grand final best-of-5 series. Teams will earn points based on their overall performance. Here's how the numbers break down. The top 10 amateur teams across both of the Proving Ground Circuit qualifiers will qualify for the Proving Grounds. Which of these aspiring champions will rise to the top in the summer of 2022? Come see for yourself.
Thanks, Desirux. Now that we have a decent idea of the format, let's take a quick look at the points from PGCQ #1 and the OQs that we just had happen earlier this week. Last week, excuse me. So here's a quick rundown. 100 Thieves next, holding the top spot at 125 points. But these aren't everybody who is eligible. There are 16 teams currently in group stage, and each one of them has an opportunity to end up on top here at the end.
Yeah, there's a lot of strong teams sitting there just on the outside looking in, especially Maryville University. I think looked so strong over the past few events, as well as OQs, that has a real chance of making it into the top 8.
Yeah, 10 teams do qualify, and if you end up as one of the top 2 teams at the end of group stage in your respective groups, you're going to get a minimum of 40 points from that. And if you win it all, it's 100. So each of these teams, all of them have opportunities. But now let's get into day 1. We've got a big matchup, at least headlining. First of all, it's going to be AOE versus Tempest Gaming, but we're going to get to that pretty soon. First, let's talk about the 16 teams here from OQs that qualified out of the original 32.
A lot of big hitters still in the game, as well as a lot of teams that made that Cinderella run to get in here with that all-important 3 wins. Definitely excited to see with a lot of the matchups that we're going to have in each one of these groups that we'll see here shortly, and how it's going to kind of shake out.
Yeah. So for Group A and B, we've got AOE Esports and Tempest Gaming. That's going to be our first match of the day. Jake's Kittens and Team Pending, we have something to talk about there a bit later, and we'll address that soon. But on the other side, Group B, 100 Thieves Next and Large being your first matchup, and No Org and Taco Gaming being the second. So for Group C, Cincinnati Fear and AOE Randoms, AOE Ginger Turmeric and CLG Faith, and then D, EG Prodigies, and DK Crew versus and Maryville versus Supernova. So all of the groups there, but we have one of our matchups today, AOE Esports versus Tempest Gaming. Our second matchup, unfortunately, had to be canceled as Jake's Kittens has resigned from the tournament due to not having an eligible roster for the group. So the group will consist of 3 teams where the top 2 advance. Team Pending will get the official win today, but we still have one match ahead of us, don't we, Regdor?
Oh yeah, and it's going to be a banger for sure, with Area of Effects Esports taking on Tempest Gaming. AOE, oh my gosh, 5-0 in the groups, the strongest they have looked in a long time, and I think a lot of that is around Winnie, who I think is in top form. Want to get your thoughts on it, if you think Winnie is all he's cracked up to be and more.
Well, I mean, I kept him in my deck for a reason, Regdor. The guy's been playing insane. He looked incredibly good in OQs, in the first OQs. And although AOE did perform very well in the group stage and playoffs, I don't think it was up to their expectations based on some of the how they wanted to peak necessarily. But this is their time. From everybody that I've talked to, this is the best AOE has looked ever. And they're hoping to ride that momentum, keeping that the first ever 5-0 for them in an OQ through group stage and into the playoffs. They have a lot to refine, and they're eager and excited to do so. But on the other side, we have Tempest Gaming, and Regdor, I know that Tempest Gaming is a team that you have followed for quite a while as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Tempest is such a young organization. This is their first year in amateurs, and they have a huge emphasis as an organization on taking these younger players and building them up on this stage. For most of them, the top side of the mount with Denethor, and then as on the bottom side with Bello and Mobility, this is their first year. They were just high elo solo queue players, I think, peaking in the top 30, top 20 players, and now in a team setting. I mean, first OQs, they went 2-3. The second round, they make it in 3-2. I think they were the lowest seeded team coming in at number 25. But they've made it onto the group stage. And I think a lot of that is the person to watch is around Mobility. He has a kind of a wandering fan club. You might see him in the chat here today. But he just plays so intelligently on the bottom side of the map, is one of those players that comes into the game regardless of resources, and just is this huge team fight threat. Yeah,
this Tempest Gaming, they have been known to be a bottom side focused team, so it's natural that the carry in the bottom lane is going to shine there. But Mobility has met every challenge. Even in their losses, Mobility is usually the bright spot in those moments. The couple of team fights where they do come out on top, it's usually on the back of Mobility making some of those great plays. So Area of Effect Esports is aware of that situation. I don't think anybody who's ever seen Tempest Gaming is unaware of some of the strengths that they have, but it's one thing to know about it and it's another thing to address it in game. So AOE has a big task on their plate. But so let's jump in though. We've talked about the game a little bit. Now let's get into our predictions. We have the whole broadcast crew, each submitting their predictions for each of the games that we will see. 3 of which are today. The other stream, the Academy stream, is going to be hosting 100 Thieves versus Large and No Org versus Taco Gaming. And it looks like it is pretty chalk here, Regdor.
Yeah, that's pretty outside there, and I see that at least Twitter and Travesty are Taco Gaming fans here. But overall, it's looking pretty up to snuff. I will say myself, at least, I did predict AOE, but I predicted a 2-1. I think Tempest takes the game off of them and makes this a 3-game series.
Okay. Yeah, I can get behind that. I think that a lot of people have been underestimating Tempest Gaming for a long time, and for a general number 1 versus number 16 seed coming in, everybody assumes it's going to be a sweep. Tempest Gaming is not a typical 16 seed. So, but we have to go to a break real quick. We'll be right back in just a moment, right after this. Welcome back, everyone. Sorry about the break. We had some personnel issues and delays for the teams, but we are getting right into it now. The draft will be starting up soon. And just a reminder, this is going to be AOE Esports versus Tempest Gaming, our number 1 versus number 16 seed. But I got a feeling it's going to be a little closer than that. We got to talk a little bit about it before. But Regdor, any final thoughts before we jump into draft?
I think a lot of this with the side select coming out, I do believe that we are looking at blue side for Tempest in game 1. And that's a huge boon if that's the case, because there's so many strong picks out there for them to play with. Something we didn't get to really mention before, but we can talk about now a little bit, is the fact for Tempest Gaming, from last OQs to this one, changed up in the mid lane and in the jungle, bringing in Frost Forest, which needs no introduction in and of itself, as well as Bouquet for the mid lane, because they said they had a very strong belief in their side lanes, in top and bot, and helping find the jungle mid synergy for the team that they felt would bring them to that next level. And so when you have picks out there like the Wukong, like the Zeri for the bottom side of the map, or you insert champion here, Seraphine, that's that kind of triple flex. They have a lot to play with on the blue side that they've prepped for, to kind of come out with that standard open and see kind of what hits. And I think that's a lot easier for the best of 3 context to start on the blue side with a standard open than be playing on red side game 1 as the quote unquote underdog fighting uphill.
Yeah, I hear a lot of teams talk about blue side being so favorable, at least currently. But it always feels subjective. Each team is going to have a different set of strengths, and whenever blue side tends to be strong, you've got everybody saying, oh, but on red side you just don't ban the strong things and you trade, you get one in return, and you opt for the better one. But I mean, draft strategies, champion pools, things like that, it truly doesn't matter whenever you get into the game. I mean, comfort picks reign supreme here at the amateur level, and when you get your champion, it almost doesn't matter what matchup, and a lot of these players tend to have those champions as well. Tempest Gaming coming from that solo queue, that high level solo queue and low competitive experience, means that they likely have a lot of those, and they do. We see that quite a bit. One of the things that we were talking about before, Denethor comes in, played 5 games of Sejuani top in OQs. Didn't matter who they went up against, didn't matter what champion. They just knew it was strong and it was going to be successful, and they rode Sejuani, well, Bristle more appropriately, to a group stage appearance. And that kind of encapsulates amateur for me. But we're getting into a draft soon. Once again, on the other side, AOE, I mean, this team has a lot more experience, sans Frost Force that we talked about, but their teamwork has been what's really shined in my eyes.
No, absolutely. And what's scary to me is red side for Zamudo getting, I would like to think that counter pick goes towards to the top side of the map. and what he can do with that. We got to see in OQs that Riven that was absolutely crazy with some of the flanks they found to end those team fights very decisively.
Yeah, he kind of made General Sniper's Riven look kind of pedestrian in some of those games. It was impressive just playing almost an assassin like that. But as draft's getting started, the bans are coming through. I would not be surprised to see Tempest Gaming opt for leaving open some of those, power picks to get something in return, as we see the Seraphine hover.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do like the fact that we do have a Callista ban coming in from the blue side, and the fact that just gives the ability to take a scaling pick and take out one of those huge lane bullies that are playing the early game aggression out of the game. But we'll have to see, because there's two enchanters, taken off the board in the Yuumi and the Seraphine that we talked about. The ever flexible Seraphine not going to be allowed to play in this game thus far. We'll have to see what the
not too uncommon. But this Lucian pick, if it's actually locked in, is another one of those flexible carries that can be thrown mid, bottom, and sometimes even top. We haven't seen Zamudo bring it out too often, but still an opportunity maybe to channel that, TSM Huni into the gangplank lane.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is indeed the fun part about having just such a strong flex pick that can do so much across the lanes. And you're almost forced by picking a B1 Lucian that either A, that the B2 is going to be a Nami, or you're forced to try to change up your draft and do a pick away.
Okay, yeah, just got confirmation. I thought maybe our intel might have been incorrect that Tempest was blue. They are in fact blue. That was a Lucian lock-in for potentially Mobility, Vuke, or Denethor, not Zamudo, Young, or Link. So now we have it all sorted out.
Yeah, and there is the B2 Nami. Again, we've seen how disgusting of a lane this can be. Just the electrocute proc on top of the level 2 Lucian with the Tidecrawler's Blessing, able to output so much damage. And there we go. We are going to get Gangplank and with another Sejuani hover. Don't want to talk too much about it, but that is a matchup that we've seen multiple times. Sejuani at level 6 without taking flash and having the ignite has so much kill pressure in lane because the orange just doesn't matter as much. You're able to cleanse away one and then get ulted, and then you kind of die. So
Denethor locking in the Sejuani, with Tempest Gaming banning the Fiora at the third ban there, I could have put money down, in my opinion. Tempest Gaming ran up against a Fiora in their UPL series against, it was Rapid, and Denethor had a pretty tough time against Fiora on the Sejuani. But with that band, way more comfortable. It felt like the only way that you're going to beat the Sejuani comfortably is with something like that, and much better time, like you said, into that GP.
And I think this also, by picking it on B3, it's going to force AOE to really look at the jungle pool. We know based off that passive that it is, hard melee junglers that want to match up with that to really get the most pressure out of the jungle top matchup. But we do see the Wukong and the Udyr, so the jungle pool just getting kind of thinned out here. Maybe something like a Viego still up in the priority there, and a few others as well. Bear gets taken off the map. Who knows?
Another one.
Maybe it's just Rammus. Maybe we get Rammus.
Well, yeah, I mean, Viego still feels possible. It's just I don't see if AoE's gonna let it through in the bans. There's a good chance that maybe they look to pick it up instead of let it through in on the blue side picks.
Yeah, and now we're starting to get down into kind of the depths of kind of what's left. This is 4, now 5 jungle bans that have gone through the draft. So we're really pulling deep in there to see either A, what matches up good with the Sejuani, or for the side of AoE, what is left on the table besides the Viego that we may just see locked in here on R4.
Oh, Gragas top Gragas jungle, like that full AP Gragas, could open up quite a bit for Young in the mid lane too. Young, known for having a pretty wide champion pool, can pull out a lot of those AD picks as well, and that Gragas pick makes it to where you really you're asking to kind of have to forfeit some of that priority in mid lane, just given the counter pick that's available. And the Jarvan picked up is another melee jungler that works.
Yeah, that is indeed another one. And now with this Lissandra hover, I mean, that looks like we're just getting a full-on dive composition from Tempest Gaming that says we're going to run in and just fight you at every angle. Super excited to see what the all-important R5 is, because Lissandra is worrisome in the laning phase. Has to be able to get through those early levels to get to really level 6 and feel comfortable in wave clear in that mana sustain. But Irelia is not a champion. Now, this could go a number of ways. This could be Irelia top into the Sejuani, or it could be Gangplank mid. There's a little bit of fun to be had here to maybe pull the wool over Tempest Gaming's eyes.
It's that all-important 20-second mark that we always talk about when swaps can't happen. But let's talk about some of the things that we were touching on beforehand. Tempest Gaming, known for being that strong bottom lane focused team, mobility and bellow, bringing out the Lucian Nami. I mean, is there a more characteristically strong lane focused bottom lane than that? You're hard pressed to find it. The response on the other end with Lynx and Skytech locking in the Ashe and Renata Glask feels pretty good, because if you've got a comp that is trying to run into your team, trying to dive into your team, that ultimate from Renata is going to be crucial in those team fights. You land it, you win. You don't, you lose.
Yeah, that is going to be the big thing, is that they have to survive long enough to be able to use it. You know, if I'm playing the dive composition from Tempest, not generally do you say like, oh, we got to take out this support first. But yeah, you have to get rid of the Renata to really effectively go all in. And I think the biggest thing is when you talk about these 2v2s on the bottom side is that it is a lane that Tempest wants to play for. I would, my thought and process would be, if I'm Tempest, is how do I cut off the map? How do I force AOE into a vertical jungle on the top side so I can hover and give Lucian Nami the push power they need to have kill pressure in lane, especially with somebody like Jarvan that is known for being that level 2, level 3 ganking style jungler. That just lends itself so well to the overall composition that Tempest has.
And I mean, Lissandra sets up ganks so well, especially into those melee matchups too. You've got that Ring of Frost that's going to lock you down, that's going to root you, and that makes the Jarvan like flag and drag so easy, honestly. So I look at mid lane as being a pretty volatile lane for that, but the bottom lane as well, they don't have any mobility on the bottom side outside of the opponents there on Tempest Gaming. Lynx and Skytech could be vulnerable targets too, just from a flank angle, not necessarily straight on. They have a lot of slows, and the handshake from Renata Glask will cut one, but usually there's 2 more opposing parties at play there. So
yeah, I'll definitely be interested in really the mid matchups, the part that I'm most wanting to see. Lissandra is kind of like not so hidden, but somewhat hidden tech into losing matchup is taking the Aftershock. Keystone and playing as a facilitator just by proccing that Ring of Frost, proccing Aftershock, and diminishing the damage returned to him, especially into what is a lane bully and try to lane kingdom here with the Irelia for Young. That could be the role player that they choose to go, and still having the Everfrost still will scale into the game certainly well, but makes them a little bit easier to just deny the normal trading pattern of an auto stack silent champion like Irelia.
All right, well, we're jumping right into game in just a moment. This is the introduction to group stage PGCQ number 2 in the summer. Game 1, Tempest Gaming and AOE Esports.
And gosh, am I happy to be back on the Rift. Could you imagine a whole week without this? how do we survive in these conditions? How do I live, laugh, love without any PGCQ?
Yeah, fortunately the grass was touchable and was able to partake. So really getting out of my comfort zone, if I'm being honest. But you talked about the aftershock on Bouquet with the Lissandra. Instead, it's gonna be the unsealed spell book, and I kind of like that more. I think that this team might struggle in the damage department if they're not ahead, and a more aggressive Lissandra build could be maybe a bit better for them in the mid to late.
No, I can't honestly disagree with that. We didn't get the split map either. It is going to be one looking like both junglers starting on the top side of the map. So they are both going to be pathing downward to this bot lane, this explosive lane that if Mobility is able to get just one kill or two in the early game, it could really change how they're able to play and make the matchup, frankly, unplayable if the Lucian gets ahead.
Yeah, and that's that's a tough task in and of itself. This is Lucian Nami after all. The double range of the bottom lane here, though, on AoE does make it a little bit easier. They do get the push initially, but really it's that level 2, level 3 that we're talking about, and they should be fairly close.
Yeah, it should be almost an equal trade here. Just one minion up, so they are going to concede that early level 2, not trying to make any more volatility than what there is. Ashe, while being used more as a counter pick, definitely has a lot of good trading power with the lethal tempo. And once they got the Ranger's Mark online here at level 2, it gives them a lot more.
Frost Force looking in. Young does use the Blade Surge, and it's the Flash Ring of Frost that locks them down. The damage comes through, but the stun is enough. Young lives with a sliver of health.
That is 2 summoners blown on the play while there is no kill. That is a lot, because now for the next 5 minutes, Young is not going to be able to play as aggressive. But
the aggression is Winnie's. The flash body slam locks it down in first blood solo kill on the jungler from AoE. As we get more action, Bouquet now the target. Lifesteal and Conqueror's procced. Young, one more auto attack and they trade. The wave is at the tower though, Young. That is not a trade you were looking for.
Yeah, but oh my gosh, just the straight up aggression of AOE Esports that we talked about, this how they're setting up lanes for Winnie, but in this case, off of that early level 3 gank from Frost Forest that just left him on 100 HP because of those tower shots. Young's able to get away. Winnie's not only able to pick up a kill, but take the enemy red buff as well as finish off those Raptors, which gives him this nice early game lead. And frankly, makes Frost in a bit of a hard position now as Zamudo is just, gatekeeping him away from this red quadrant of AoE's jungle at the moment.
Yeah, fortunately, I mean, Jarvan, not the most resource-dependent jungler. I mean, neither is Gragas, depending on what you're going for, but shouldn't be too big of a deal. Here we've got Young stepping forward. Ring of Frost should be able to lock down. They wait until the passive is down. Now the damage comes through. Should be an easy kill, but it's Winnie looking for the return. Just a bit too late. Another kill going over to Bouquet on this Lissandra. More action though, bottom lane, Mobility. You said I wanted a breath, but you give me none. Skytech gonna go down as long as they don't get the kill, and they don't. Mobility stays live just long enough to secure it. Trade kills for the 80 carries of the bot lane. We have a game, Regdor.
Yeah, you take away the 1st and 16th standing. This is just 2 groups of 5 players trying to make their mark here in the first game of the group stage. And just such intelligent early game play coming out here from Tempest. They do trade 1-for-1 on the bottom side of the map, but that flash that we talked about, the early gank, yeah, we're going to get to see it again here. And because Young doesn't have flash, is just stuck out here on the island, and they just layer that Ring of Frost into the flag and drag so well, able to get Bouquet another kill on the play, and then we flash forward down to the bot lane of what has been, Mobility just going in so hard, cleansing away that handshake, to be able to continue on. The bailout just not able to do enough, just a fraction there. End up trading 1-for-1 on the play, but Tempest is in this game playing aggressive around these lanes. Frost Forest facilitating really well early on.
It's volatile, to say the least. It's only a 200 gold difference, and that's really stemming from first blood, and that's it. Maybe a couple chickens, in fact. The CS League being very Winnie favored, as they were topping the gold charts before Lissandra was able to clear that wave, and that's with one less kill from Bouquet. So Winnie, that huge presence, and it's even greater here with the body slam landing. The barrel's gonna slow, but this is Frost Force turning it around. They trade one kill, barely getting mobility on the backside, as these junglers mirroring each other across the map.
My goodness, did you see how much damage that is Mobility's already putting out? That is just 2 longswords and a pickaxe on the play. But yeah, Frost Forest and Winnie is like the tale of 2 junglers that are continuing to meet pound for pound off of each play being there. And really having a 2-0 on Lynx, this is great. He's, you know, able to get through some of this early game under... oh my gosh.
Yep. That's the Glacial Prison coming down. Now we get some influence. Zamudo dropping the barrage on top of the enemy team. Tempest whittling down thanks to Winnie and Zamudo. The damage come through. Skytech just showing up for a little XP along the way. AOE Esports showing exactly how that 5-0 occurred. They read Tempest Gaming's play and are in this game with a control.
Yeah, right now it is not looking like Frost Force doesn't have a jungle right now. It's all Winnies. Yeah, and we're gonna get a quick replay on this last interaction that you said played them like a book on this mid lane skirmish.
Yeah, Herald spawning though. Now we get the replay. I mean, Young lands the ultimate after the Glacial Prison, and then the damage comes through Regdor.
I really love how Frost Forest tried to go in there on Young, but when he had the exploding cast ready and just offsets him right into his waiting arms, like a Christmas present almost. And we got the Santa Gragas on the rift.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not one any of the kids are happy to open up though.
Yeah, I mean, you know, explosions never a good thing in the living room on a Saturday morning.
We kind of equate it to like socks, but like before, you know, you've left high school, nobody's excited about it, and then all of a sudden you become an adult and you're like, honestly, I've got like 3 socks that are decent and then 12 that are either mismatched or holier than pretty much any of thou, and then socks become like pretty top tier.
Yeah, I will take all of that. I mean, free clothes are great, but this might not be a free kill for AOE as Denethor is able to dash away from that one. I mean, huge emphasis on the junglers in this game. Winnie and Frost Force have been a little bit of everywhere on these plays, as it is going to be the Rift Herald started up for the side of AOE. A big important thing here is that, gosh, first Herald control from Tempest, 70% of the time in OQs have they been able to get the first Herald, but now Zamudo and Winnie really controlling this topside 2v2, so it may look like it'll just be a trade.
Yeah, Frost Force going in pretty deep, but Skytech is only level 4, so there is no hostile takeover, just kills going over to Frost Force as the rest of the team shows up. Bellow and Mobility here for the Dragon.
And it looks like that easy 1-for-1 trade there. Like you said, the hostile takeover not being online yet means that a lot of these nooks and crannies that you can find yourself in don't have the same lethality for the side of AOE until that ability comes online. We're gonna have to, you know, be careful. The bailout can only do so much, as that is the first strike of the game here, around 10 minutes. So that is far off ways from a soul, but early dragon stacking, always a great feeling for any team.
Yeah, especially getting that early ocean dragon. I know that the individual ones are pretty low. Lynx, hello. Perhaps just pinging to his team, you know, hey, we've got flash down on X person. No, there wasn't even flash down on the enemy team. I don't have an excuse for you, Lynx.
You know, it happens to the best of us sometimes. I get a little excited and I'll go to level one of my abilities and at the same time use it, and it feels really bad when you use your ultimate when you're trying to level it up.
Actually, no. Lynx really just wanted to get in range for the XP. There was a melee minion that was dying. Without that, you know, Lynx isn't eight and a half levels, you know, into this game. He's only 8 and 6/13. So, quick maths.
6/13 is a really, yeah. I was just about to say that's beyond me, champ.
I'm gonna be honest, Regular. I just set a number and then I doubled it. Was like add 1, read, add 1, and then it took way longer than I would like to admit. All right. Winnie, though, not taking any time to look back top here. The body slam through the glacial prison is enough. Now we get the present, and these are socks that are going to fit the wearer. Denethor, you've been dressed in blood. And Frostforce on the other side returning these as well. Skytech flashes out and saves their life, but the wave and the tower on the docket.
Yeah, you know what? It's pretty good, as we do have the cannon barrage going down to try to dissuade this a bit. They will drop the herald on the top side, so it's really like split map at the moment, with Frostforce getting something done on the bottom side with Winnie on the top, but an easy first tower to the side of AOE Esports, which means, yeah, they're gonna more than likely rotate up here to the mid lane now, with nothing else really too hard to fight for on the map. Just expecting a nice little push out to happen, as Denethor is just fighting Zamudo here.
Zamudo got 2 there, and Winnie is there as well. Like, he's going to be able to get out just fine. Oh, never mind. I've got to stop. It's Bouquet and Frostforce looking for Skytech and Young in the middle of the field. Winnie flashes over the wall to look for it. The body slam not yet available as Frostforce watches his teammate die and soon might follow. Young flashes forward. The blade surge gets you in range, and the auto attack gets the kill. Mobility cleanses the slow. Might not have enough. Young almost turns it around as Winnie has to get out, and Zamudo on the top side, I couldn't even call it in time, is able to get out as well. Traded kills both ways.
The only thing I can say off of that is, you know, maybe it's because I'm old, but the reaction time on mobility there, we're gonna get to see it again live and in living color here, of that absolute Armageddon of a fight here on this blue quadrant.
Yeah, I mean, handshake misses, but it's the re-engage here from Frostforce and Young.
Yeah, able to get a lot down, but Bouquet buys a little bit of time by going golden right here, and they're able to pick up Skytech on the backside, just barely. But this is when mobility gets to join the fray, and like look at just one thing after another, having the presence of mind to cleanse this, and just this last second like kill here right about now is just flashes away.
Yeah, mobility dies there. Winnie was ready to go back in without the flash, so.
This is absolutely quite the early game right now. 4K gold difference, a lot of that off the top side. 2 towers for Shelly.
Yeah.
I've been told Shelly only likes to do one thing, and that's take towers. And that's a happy Shelly, getting both the tier 1 and the tier 2.
Nope. Regdar, I've got to correct you. 2 things. Take towers and dance. It's just... She was never allowed to dance again because the guilty feet just don't have rhythm. A great philosopher told me that about Shelly, so.
I kind of want to cry now that you've said that. It was so beautiful. Something else that is beautiful is Zamundo has a bounty on his head with just 3 assists, just by virtue of
that
what
gold
they've done on the top side of the map.
Yeah, and unfortunately for AOE, the bottom side of the map is going to be the focus here in the next few minutes. Yes, you do have the cannon barrage, and it kind of makes it a 4.5 versus 4. But if Zamudo decides to roam down, you feel like AOE is going to have control to stop any dragon stacking and force Tempest Gaming to have to win maybe a couple lopsided team fights in the mid game that they might not be favored for now that we're looking down the barrel of a 4-0-1 Gragas with Winnie.
And Gragas with the Night Harvester as well, just getting the ability haste off those individual abilities. Somebody who has a lot of AoE built into their kit, a really good user. And oh wow.
Oh, Frost Force gets the Cataclysm, but it's the hostile takeover that stops the play. Denethor TPing in, and although doesn't get anything immediately, is still here for the play. Those are a couple crucial ultimates down. The culling and the hostile takeover down on either side means that some of the range from these teams are gone, but I'm still looking at Winnie here. We've got Zamudo TPing into the bottom side. Winnie with a lot of damage. You talked about the itemization. Ash Arrow does land, and now we get the follow-up. Frost Force is on the back line, but it doesn't matter. They die immediately. Dragon goes over to Winnie as Bouquet, is going to die shortly after. Denethor next up, and Mobility can't even play the game. No health without any impact on the play. It's AoE all the way right now.
Yeah, and what an enchanted crystal arrow just catching out Denethor. And like we talked about with Zamundo's itemization early on, already has the Lord Dominic's regard. As you watch on this play, just easy pick out on Denethor here, and he's going to get locked down, which just puts everybody in an awkward position as they try to dive the back line. There's no damage there. Bouquet gets in a little too late, and Winnie just gets to go walk over and smite the dragon. The dive composition of Tempest relies on just that, being able to dive in tandem and layer CC, but they just did such a great job of keeping Mobility away from the play, and then Frost Force and Bouquet just couldn't get there at the same time to try to blow up, because there was some pretty low health members of AoE on the backside.
And Frost Force, as a dying breath, trying to flash over the Dragon Wall to get the smite, and dies right before it hits the threshold. This game has felt incredibly close in a lot of the plays. You mentioned the bailout almost saving Skytech a couple times in the place, and on the other side now, Frost Force being on the receiving end of that. I mean, we ahead of time talked about Tempest Gaming in the bottom lane being a big focus, but it has honestly felt like mid jungle moving together throughout all of these plays, and now we've got some of the supports coming in, but I mean, that's AoE's wheelhouse.
Yeah, and that is the pain, is when you're matching up wheelhouse to wheelhouses. We're just getting barreled right now. Bouquet gonna have to walk away.
Oh my god, Winnie's gonna come in. Here comes the barrel, the flash to save it. Bouquet able to stay alive, but the turret not able to do the same as AOE Esports. I mean, they're printing money, and they even have Gangplank on the team, so it's double dipping. TP.
Yeah, we do get a TPN though. See if they're gonna catch them out on the long side of this play.
Yeah, it's an extended 4v5 right now. Mobility and Bello have a lot of ways to get in. The Flag and Drag buffering the stun, but that is a drag that you do not want to race into. More go down, though. This is Mobility pumping out the damage and trading two in response. Skytech, the lone wolf on the bottom side. Young coming back in. Maybe they're looking to turn the tides. They look back on Young and Winnie. They know they've got Skytech if they take their time, and it's just about getting Denethor out. Handshake onto Bouquet right whenever they come in. I'm looking at both of these. Now we've got the turn. Young looking in. The Blade Surge not able to do so without risking their life. Bello takes a huge chunk from the barrel, as I think we've fully disengaged now.
Oh my goodness. But that, I think at the end of the day, that ends out being a net neutral, trading the tier 2 for 2 kills on the backside of that. And this, prior to that extended fight, was textbook AoE of Skytech and Winnie moving to the side lane and creating like this overload on one side of the map. But Frost Force here going to buffer it with the Flag and Drag, and Bouquet follows up on top. And this is where we get a lot of damage. Frost Force, of course, gives his life, but look at the culling, able to get in so much damage on top of that ultimate.
It's beautiful layering, and I think that's the dream scenario. If they're able to focus them in, get them into that Cataclysm, and then drop a like Renegade Bouquet in on them with the Frozen Tomb and the Glacial Prison and more ice-themed abilities probably. I mean, it has, you know, that wombo combo feel, just a little slower than maybe we're used to identifying it. And Bouquet and Mobility have to be ready to pull that trigger though, because they're the only ones pumping out the damage. Oh, Enchanted Crystal Arrow does miss. Blue buff under contention, loses patience though. Something I'm, fairly familiar with. I've autofill jungle. It feels like I can't entertain these camps at all. I try to drag them out and I just lose them. So something I'm pretty used to.
It feels bad, but that was a very tedious moment there. We do have the Baron online. I don't think either team really wanting to actually do it at this point without getting a good
there we go.
beforehand.
Now we get the engage. Explosive cast does separate the team, and that's what they're looking for. AOE has them right where they want them. Young having to escape from the culling, but now we get the Cataclysm. We pile down the damage. The bailout does not save you, as Denethor on the front lines is still alive. Link's not able to secure the kill, and Tempest turn it around on the back of a beautiful Cataclysm for Frost Forest.
My God, Tempest Gaming in that team fight. It looked like the picture perfect setup for AOE. Young was able to come in off the backside of that exploding cast, but all of the CC layering from Phosphorus and Bouquet just extend out the play and let so much of that damage come in. Once again, Mobility getting so much off the backside of the play after Bouquet basically rotates through their spells and dies. Like we said, here we get the start off with the explosive cast into the cannon barrage, and watch as Young gets in what looks like a beautiful angle. The Frost Forest is able to re-engage.
4-man Cataclysm into Bouquet, just dropping everything right in the middle of them. Picture perfect. Wow.
Yeah,
and the shutdown.
So sneaky of somehow in the chaos, Frost Forest is able to just walk out into the bush and wait in lion waiting there. Just beautiful play, but it looks like off the backside they're going to try to use the tempo they got off the bases to start this. They are on vision though. It is known. Baron's only at 2k health. This may not be... Nope.
Oh, Frost Force just a bit too late, but now we've got the engage. Mobility is pumping out a lot of damage, though. Zamudo's already down, and we're looking to go front to back. Bouquet dropping the stasis and stays alive. Now we get the follow-up. Frost Force going forward. Triple kill for Mobility, and they just need a little more to catch up. They decide not to, as Winnie and Young have a lot of kill pressure in themselves. They can't face check it, but now into the mid-game, Tempest Gaming turning it on.
They are absolutely undeterred in these team fights. And Mobility, the build is something that's super interesting. Has to flash to stay away from that stun. Oh
Young, though, in a little trouble. The tower's almost dead. They're going to focus it down. And yeah, Young is going to go down as well. It was a ill-advised engage. Yes, you got the flash, but you lose your life too. I mean, 300 gold. If I press F, I think I'm going to do it.
That's actually disgusting right now. So this build I just saw recently from Mobility, it's a rapid fire cannon into IE. It's a direct path to getting that 60% crit, getting the perfect execution passive online. And as you can see in these team fights, it does so much damage as Frost Force and Bouquet once again get in there with this huge AoE damage, and then just gives Mobility the perfect setup to be able to come in and just look. Skytech is no more. Not allowed to play the game, and then Link's right afterwards there for a triple. And how do you kill Mobility when you have to go through all of the CC that is Frost Force and Bouquet? And that's not even talking about Denethor, who is a very tanky boy at this point.
Zamudo though, 3k gold, and yes, Gangplank does have that gold passive, the plunder that is able to print a little more money than normal, but the towers that Zamudo was able to get early game, it means that if Zamudo dies early in the fight, AOE Esports is not favored anymore. That is all of their gold lead on just one champion. So that's exactly what happened, and you would think Tempest is looking to do that, replicate it in future fights now.
And as long as they can control this like side lane vision and give Frost Forest somewhere to hide in the fog of war, setting up for those really, really great cataclysms that give just the perfect chain CC that we've seen mentioned and shown again and again. And now you've got mobility on 3 items. And this is when he just starts popping off with the Tidecaller's Blessing on top of him. He can 100-0 one of their carries very, very quickly.
I also want to point out, funnily enough, still on tier 1 boots, by the way. You know, he's got the New Balances, and not necessarily, you know, the brand new Jordans. Old as gold in that sense. But speaking of gold, Zamudo cashing in on a couple well-timed barrels, but you're trading your life here. The cross-map play, though, is the mid turret. Tier 2 looking to be the focus. Winnie stopping some of the backs, making sure the inside track is secure.
Yeah, and that's a scary sight of this full AP Gragas running at you. They will lose the tier 2 in the process.
Maybe.
So really,
no, I think they're all back. Yeah,
no?
They're fine.
Oh.
They have to back off, looking for Dragon now.
And this is not close to Soul Point for the side of AOE, but it does offset what Tempest wants to do.
Yeah. The tempo favoring Tempest. Mobility getting launched into the enemy team. Walks into the flawless duet and dies. Bouquet now the next to be focused. Denethor TPing in. Is able to flash out, but the Blade Surge is there. The bubble. Prison lands, and now we still have the Cataclysm. There it goes. Young in the middle of it, and this is not a tournament or a I don't know, playground for Jarvan. This is a gold mine for AOE Esports. Denethor having to get away. This Dragon is going to belong to AOE Esports. The turrets are as well. Denethor is in trouble still. I thought you were out, but no. Taking a trip into the brush, dying to Zamudo as well. AOE Esports winning handily in this fight.
Yeah, and that is the unfortunate circumstance that Tempest finds himself in, is that if mobility gets picked off, if Bouquet has to use all of his abilities to get away, then Frostforce's Cataclysm doesn't do much. He is gone the Sunfire Cape and Frozen Heart route. He does not have innate ability to kill anybody. He just has the ability to set up for the play, and was really well timed by Winnie to use that exploding cask to just hand deliver mobility to the wrong side of the map.
Yeah, it was perfectly timed, and we're always going to consider that intentional. You know, you make the read, you know that mobility is going to take that step and launch, you know, them into yours. And that 5v1 is very favorable for the 5. It usually is, Regdor, but now we've got a little bit of time. Baron is going to be up in 30 seconds. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow just seeking. It's going to be back off of cooldown by the time Baron is actually being contested. But for now, the moment... Oh, Cataclysm comes in. They know that Young doesn't have a flash. Now the culling. Young does not take damage, though. They're totally fine. Losing absolutely nothing on the play, but it's the re-engage from Denethor that's going to do it. Young is going to go down, but Lynx is trading the kills back. 2 kills over to this Ashe, with the 3rd now coming in. Mobility gets flashed on and dies to Winnie as Lynx and Winnie run this fight and launch AOE into the driver's seat in the base of Tempest Gaming.
And that was 4v5. Zamudo only threw down the cannon barrage and was able to pick up his tier 1, and now at the very least this is going to be a double inhib. They won't even need the Baron. It'll be a question of whether or not Tempest can actually mount a base defense here with so many key abilities being down, as they are on the first Nexus tower.
Second one's going to go down as well. The respawn timers are close, but they are not close enough. This is AOE Esports continuing the dominance and taking game 1 of this group stage.
That was so stunning on multiple fronts of like, number one, Tempest Gaming has a fire in their heart. They've got a storm of brewing, and they were able to find so much in the game. But Winnie and Zamudo said no. Zamudo was just such a huge sign lane threat and was able to trade 1-for-1 on plays and set up for the cross maps. And Winnie was a very large man with the exploding casks
no
and
pun
these
intended.
engages. And Winnie, wonderful person, not like Winnie the Pooh. But
No,
Winnie the Gragas.
Gragas. Yeah.
Winnie the
just
Gragas.
a big frame. Yeah. Just talk about unit collision. That's it.
Yeah. Hitboxes, something like that.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
Winnie just had a very masterclass of aggressive invasions in the early game into just these picture perfect exploding casts in the mid game that separated the team out and gave them what they wanted to just kind of pick off one after another. And in the end state, Tempest's storm was kind of quelled in game 1.
Yeah. It turns out when AOE Esports is able to stay neutral heading into the mid game, they feel very confident in winning a team fight and just taking everything. It came on the back of a couple disjointed plays. It was mobility stepping a bit too far forward and not respecting that explosive cask. And I mean, props to Winnie, just really capitalizing on almost every play that they made, with the exception of the bottom play, where it was a really great play by Frost Force on the Jarvan to turn around that gank. Everything was working on the side of Winnie.
No, absolutely. And I think it comes down to is they played the anti-dive really well. And there was a few points where it felt like Tempest was reaching, like on that last play, where they thought they had Young, and then it felt like they kind of reached to be able to secure that kill. And then at that point, the hostile takeover, the exploding cast, all the pieces started coming together that dismantled Tempest in game 1.
Yep. Well, we still have at least a second game. This is AOE looking to finish it out with a clean 2-0, but Tempest Gaming, like we said, not a typical 16 seed, has a lot of fight in them and looking to make this an even series. But we're going to be back after the break here in just a moment.